of moving slowly to back to Fallbrook. I had a fire October 2023, and my house is being rebuilt, and I'm in a temporary spot. So I keep loading the car because December 21st, that's our day to officially move back to Fallbrook.
I'm admiring you on top of all the other emotions of a fire and moving and your other involvements and responsibilities. I'm going, that's hard to do. We moved 3 months ago. And so of course I started that move 2 months ahead of time, but there is a point where you're like, did I pack the shampoo or did I throw it away? Did I put it in the luggage? What did I? So are you a fairly coordinated person?
I wouldn't say that I'm a coordinated person, but I will say that sometimes it's the big things in life that absolutely change our attitudes and our being. And the fire was one of the second biggest thing I would say that happened in my life. But I knew that even that day, that it was there for some sort of a reason. And it was as though Spirit stepped in and said, okay, stop what you're doing right now. And I had not really any other choice sitting there watching my house burn. But I also found some of the benefits. Many people my age are wanting to clear things out and simplify, and it's really hard to get rid of things. Part of it's emotional. Part of it is just if you've ever tried to sell used furniture or, have somebody even just pick it up, It's difficult to get rid of things. It's much easier to buy things. But in having a fire, well, a lot of things took themselves out. They just left. A third of my wardrobe left. Some of it I could wash and keep. Well, a lot of things left. And it was an opportunity to simplify. And then living in one room for a year, again, what happens? You bring what's actually important to you. Wow. If it's important to your life and your happiness, you have it around you. I learned a lot in that process as to what's actually important. And I also learned that, especially since we're talking about age here, that age is just a number. It's fascinating to me. I have seen people who were old at 40, and I have seen people young at 90. So much of it is just a state of mind. And I've had the opportunity to, kind of feel like a teenager or a young adult. In other words, I'm starting over. I am furnishing my first place. I don't have any furniture in the living room. I get to choose again. I don't have to make it fit with the things I inherited from my mother and all these other things. All of a sudden, it's a fresh slate. What happens is that the things that happen to you provide an opportunity. And sometimes the challenges are exactly what you need. They're Spirit's way of saying it's time to grow. It's time to grow, and we'll get you to notice. And I felt like when the house was burning, it's like, okay, I got the message. You'd like me to notice. And after that, a lot of my life changed for the better. So anything in life can be an opportunity. And earlier we were talking, you mentioned I have a vision workshop. And I do that for people to actually sit back and say, what would I love in life? Because I had everything burn, I had an opportunity to say, what's really important? What do I want to replace? What makes me happy? And I really want to have it there. And what can I just let go of? And that's an important question, is what is it that makes the life that you love? And that's what I do, is help people create a life that they would love by going inside. I don't have all the answers, but you have all the answers inside.
I think I already know the answer to this question. Did you start into, mindset doesn't cover it, but did you start into helping others to see what they cherish about life, or cherish in life, or cherish about their future life? Did you start all that before this 2023 fire?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I thought so.
In fact, I wrote a book, The Menopause Millionaire. And I wrote that book because it was about a point in my life, and actually I was just turning 50. And at that time, my world fell apart. This was another time Spirit stopped my life because my eldest daughter took her own life.
Yeah.
And we had a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, lost everything, and a divorce. And it wasn't till years later I realized that was all within 1 year. I look back and I said, it was a shift in my life. And it was after that I said, there's got to be something better. And a question that I think most people ask it themselves in midlife, which is, why am I here? What is this life all about? And because I asked that, I started all kinds of personal development and study, and have multiple different degrees and master of this and that, because I was deeply curious. I thought there's got to be a better way. And obviously I knew that I didn't know at that point.
Yeah.
So that's what really got me started. And also combining, I know you have folks here who are focused on some of the financial, and I have a financial background as well. It's not my main focus, but I realized with the bankruptcy that there were things I did not know, and perhaps I should find out. So I spent 7 years in the insurance, but the financial industry, to learn a heck of a lot more. And my book is general, because what's important when you hit midlife is to at least look at your finances, because finances, they take a while to grow. It's a matter of money and time. And if you haven't started by age 50, you still have time. You still may have another 30 years to build. But if you ignore that, and it goes on much, much later, by the time you're 60, that's a little late to start saving for retirement. You just get to optimize your Social Security and hope for the best. So it's about looking around at different points of your life. And that's why I like to focus on people 50 and up, because I think it's that time, and to step in and say, what's this all about? Why am I here? And I love the fact that everybody is unique. We're all here for our own purpose. And when you step back and find it, it started to make sense of all of my life. As I stood back and said, why did I do the certain things that I do? Why was I born into the family that I was? Well, because I'm here for a purpose. And my purpose is to help everybody live a life that they would love.
I this is my second time being screen to screen with you, and I cherish being in the same electronic room and sitting at the same virtual table with a person who has been clobbered. And your response was, is this really all there is? Isn't there something more? I don't remember your exact words, but for you to continue to look for reasons, answers, pathways, whatever you call them. I just really cherish this moment. I think that the menopause millionaire,
Yes.
menopause millionaire, good.
Mhm.
I think that might have made me go, "Ing, okay, menopause." That is something that happens somewhere along aging. Obviously, some people, some women, they end up with a radical hysterectomy and it throws them into it at a different age. I don't know if there's other medical situations. My own menopause came too early that even my doctor was like, it cannot be that. You are not at that average point, the bell curve. I was at the wrong side of the bell or whatever. But that's how I first, thought, oh, I probably need to type something nice to this person, ask them if they could be on aspects of aging. And then so much more. And so are you moving back? Ooh, I might be asking too much of a question. You're moving back into the same area?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Back
You
back
only
into
say
the
what
same,
you want to say, or
back into the same rebuilt house. Yeah.
wow. And it's the end of 2024. And it's
Right.
going to
It's
be in
taken more
many
than a
ways
year.
new and then in some ways familiar. Do you still have maybe some of the same neighbors or the same view, I guess?
Yes, we do. And it's very interesting because I'm aware of the energy. I'm aware that the energy before the fire was, I got the message, don't go back to that energy. So I thought that's going to be
Mm.
my personal challenge, and something I always say is notice what you're noticing. So notice if I have a tendency to go back to some old habits and really ask what actually serves me and what does not.
Very good.
So it is an opportunity for it to be fresh, however, that realizing I don't need the same style of furniture. Everything doesn't need to be as it was. I have some wonderful things that I love that are going to already be there. But simple things. Instead of the dining room set that I had there, now I want to get a counter height table. I want
Oh,
things to just be fresh. Maybe even younger in a sense, because
I see what
I
you're
get to have
saying.
what I want. I get to have what I love. And that's what I wish for everybody, is have life the way you choose.
Wow. Okay, Matt, Crystal, and Danielle. Did any of you have like one of those moments where you were like, oh, I can speak to that? Or just, start in. You don't have to be polite to me. I just threw a plastic tablecloth on the picnic table so that there wasn't anything dirty here. So just anybody have a thought about that? And please do tell about yourself and your own endeavors.
I don't know if I have a thought specifically about that, but as Carol was talking, something that resonated with me that I feel comes up a lot for families is sometimes, the old saying of when one door closes, another opens. I feel that to be true. As she was explaining, the fire gave her, it reframed the opportunity, it almost brought new life. And I think something that I found in caring for family and loved ones is when you're in that caregiving journey, you're so focused on what you can do currently. So right now, the safety, what do they need today, all those things. But I think when you reflect on the journey, at least for me, what going through that process and all of the emotions that it kind of elevated, what it highlighted was the value of life. So the experience of kind of end of life and going through and getting comfortable with and navigating all of the components and leading indicators of death, more so than sitting in that, what it did for me is open my eyes to exactly where Carol was kind of going. What is important? What am I doing today? How can I rejig my life? What's meaningful? And I feel like that's something that's so beautiful when people talk about death and grief, but it takes time. It takes time to let yourself get there. It takes time to see that. But I do think it changes a lot of people. It gives new perspective, and it changes then how you tend to look at who you want to be or how you behave or where you spend your time. And that's something that I think is really beautiful about the caregiving journey.
I have heard that from people who have had that opportunity to, as Carol says, notice what you're noticing. It's like, wow, I don't jump through hoops like I was doing before this, or in the same way, or I take note. Jumping through hoops to me means like a circus where the tiger jumps through the hoop because the whip cracks and the hoops are sometimes on fire. At least that, on TV, that's what we would see. And it's like, maybe I don't have to jump through a hoop. Maybe I should just be who I am. Maybe I don't need to be the trained act that I've been up to this point. That's what I hear from some people going, wow. It's like I stopped and turned and went, okay, the usual has changed. The normal can be redefined each month, day, hour. I think I'm going to put, as you said, a new frame on this. And did I hear correctly, Crystal, that you said caring for loved ones? Is that right?
Correct. In my particular scenario, when I think about learnings, I tend to be a forward thinker. And so sometimes in the moment, the pain is there, but I can suppress it when I think about what am I going to learn? How will this change me? And I've been able to frame that most of my life, I think, because of experiences I've gone through. Some might say that is possibly a coping mechanism for some of those experiences, but it's allowed me to carry optimism and be grateful for what I do have and think about, there's so many other things or people or situations that are far worse. So if I can figure out how to navigate and find the silver lining, then there's something good that can come from it. So.
Wow. Matt or Danielle, anything kind of bubbling up? And Crystal, I would love to know more about, well, I ask all my guests. I didn't do this at the very beginning more than 2 years ago, but I realized as people said, well, I have this book, or, I'm going to be running a conference. I coach people. I have a product that I developed because of a need. I call it Born of Grief, meaning mother of invention is necessity. I realized I need to ask these people ahead of time for and I'm looking at them right now over in the comments. So can I ask you, while Matt and Danielle, I've kind of done both at the same time, but Crystal, could you just tell us about Inner Hive, either why you came up with that word or how it relates to why you want people to come and visit Inner Hive?
Yeah, so family caregiving, I think that was something that a lot of people can relate to in terms of it being profound enough to change their life. Often, it then developing empathy where they feel inspired to create change, be part of change, something shifts. And so that was very much the inspiration behind Inner Hive. And we've got a team of people that can really relate to, in some capacity, being in that caregiver role. And I think, you know, we're not getting younger, we're all getting older. So at some point in life, we're either going to be observing, care happening, we're going to need it, or we're going to be extending it. And so it felt so relatable that there's not one of us that isn't impacted by this. And after the pandemic, a lot of families had a new learning, and my family was one of them. And, like most, if you don't go through proper planning, I'm a big advocate of planning now. I certainly hadn't expected in this decade to be carrying in the capacity that we did, but we had a situation. I grew up in a multi-generational household, so my grandparents were like parents to me. And so when we got the call, we made a decision and we moved my grandmother and uncle across country. They had very different care needs. So one had dementia, one had cancer. At the time, my grandmother was actually helping and caring for my uncle. So it was kind of a dyad situation where they came together. But yeah, there was a lot of rich learning, a lot of personal self-learning, a discovery of an emotional stress threshold that I never knew existed. And a lot of what came out of that was my shift of where I decided I wanted to spend my time, what I wanted to give back, what was meaningful for me. I've spent my entire career in technology, and all the companies I've been part of or at have been high growth. And while there's value in that, there's still something richer in solving a problem. It doesn't need to be exactly your own problem. There's going to be thousands of problems every day, and we only get to pick, the very important problems that we're willing to take action on. They're so critical to solve. And to be part of that when it's around or adjacent to an experience that you had that was personal pain, the depth of that, the meaning, it's very, very different than just being part of a company, that sells cars or makes more money or connect. It carries a very different context for me. So that was really important. And that's Inner Hive. The name was inspired by nature. So big lover of nature. Felt like there's a lot of things in nature that we can learn from, a lot of nuances or deeper meaning that people sometimes miss. And a lot of people often look to bees and they think, oh, they're really hardworking. It's the worker bee, concept. But I think what they miss is the social structure. So they often forget how resilient they are, how well they come together and unify, how easily they're able to kind of move through conflict because of how they structure themselves and how they work. And that was something that was really powerful, because when you think about caregiving, I often think about how much of it lies around the backbone of community. And what we're seeing is so many caregivers are suffering and they're burning out, and they're getting overwhelmed and they're feeling alone and they're starting to shut down. And they forget that if you can find community, even just one person that understands what you're going through, that can be able to listen, that can extend help in whatever form, but that slice of community, that slice of connection is so, so powerful to oneself, to your own wellness, to your own sanity, your own mental health. And so it was really important that we did something that emphasized the importance of community in one's wellness, because in the end, we're really focused on caregiver wellness. There's things that you need to get through and things that are going to make your life easier from a productivity and time perspective. But at the end of the day, what we're really trying to solve for is caregivers need to take care of themselves, and they need to be promoting their own wellness just as much as those they care for. But often when you get into that caregiver role and you're in a system that doesn't support you, you forget about yourself, and there's negative impact.
Wow, just as much. And that speaks to when people say, well, I don't think of us as I'm the caregiver and this is the person who's frail and needy and can't what everything they can't, is that we're in a care partnership. This is how we make every day better, our life better. I learn from my loved one that this is the way that dementia is going to affect both of us. So I learn, and we together find a different way, and just all that. I love it, because I can see the inner hive now, and I can see these bees going, people call us busy. Oh, you're just busy, 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 and just work, work, work. And it's like, Well, actually, we're very, I had said it to Carol earlier, very coordinated. And there's a reason why this is this way and that way. And it all turns out beautifully. I love that I get to hear you say it came from nature. It was inspired by nature, because there's much to learn there.
Do you mind if I ask a question of Crystal?
Yeah,
I would love you to do that.
No, Crystal, I find this fascinating. First of all, my father had dementia, and I was with him the last years of his life. My mother had caregiving at home. She had leukemia and passed. And I'm now taking care of a 90-year-old. This is part of where I have been for this last year. So this is very fresh in my mind. And one of the things that I notice is that some people have made peace with the fact that we have a temporary gig here as humans. We had a birth date, and we'll have the date that we leave. So we're here as long as we're breathing. Some people make peace with it, and some people really fight it like it's something unnatural, that they are going to die at some point. Do you find, because you talk to so many caregivers, do you find that there's a difference in working with people depending upon their attitude?
Oh, 100% sure. There is absolutely a mindset, but I think there's a complete journey too. So I think it would be almost unfair to expect people early in the journey to be prepared for that mindset, because especially if you're propelled into caregiving or you're not expecting it, you're overwhelmed, you're maybe not as informed or educated, possibly you didn't witness or you didn't know what to expect. But I do think many people that can get to that, I think it's one of the joys of caregiving, is something so profound when you're dealing with conditions that impact how you communicate, how you behave, your patients. Part of caregiving is about acceptance. It's recognizing this is not your problem to fix. You cannot control it. You are there to support, you're there to give, you're there to offer, whatever that may look like for love, emotional, other means. But I do think that as people go through that journey, it's easier for some people to come to that conclusion and to feel that, whereas others, there may be a little bit of resistance. And I say that personally. I'm someone that has always, if someone were to maybe label me, it might be that traditional type A go-getter, for lack of better label. And one of the challenges I've struggled with is I see a problem and I can see the vision of how to fix it. And I feel so compelled that I want to help, because I've always felt like if I'm not helping, all I'm doing is witnessing a car crash. I could do better, but I've had to learn that it's not always my problem. I don't need to jump into everyone's life. Some things don't need to be solved. Some problems are maybe not critical enough to even do that. Maybe there's other things like quality of life that are far more important than maybe addressing like a traditional quantitative problem. So that's something that I've learned. But, people go through their journey at different rates. They have different realizations. And I think, again, community, you find people that have been there, just like when you're someone that's learning something new. If you can find a mentor, that can accelerate your learning. It can open new perspective. If you create time and have patience and you're okay sitting in that uncomfortable space of learning and emotion, that creates new perspective. There's a lot there, but yeah, I think acceptance is really important in caregiving.
Yeah, thank you. I'm blessed that the 90-year-old that I am with now, she's ready to go. She has a big do not resuscitate page. She's got it pasted on her wall to make sure everybody knows. And she's very much at peace within herself. And it makes it easier to be with her. She's not fighting it. And yet she's taking care of her body. She's 90 and not moving much, but who knows? She could be here another 10 years.
Yeah. I love that it's clear. I think the biggest thing I hear you say is anyone around that's supporting people, if we understand what their preference is, it's much easier for us to respect what they want out of life. And it doesn't put the ownership and the weight on us, or that stress of, is this the right or wrong decision? So I think that's really awesome that she's thought about it and has that intention and has communicated so people know.
Yes.
Wow.
I just want
Danielle?
to say that,
Yes,
Carol,
please do.
I'm just amazed by your poise and strength through such a tough journey that you've gone through the last, you said 2023, so approximately 2 years. And I'm just would like to throw your question back at you and say, um, what would the vision of a life that you would want look like?
I got very clear. First of all, that I have always had the same interests. When I actually stopped and looked back at my life and I wanted to study psychology in college, and my mother thought that was a terrible idea. So I ended up studying literature and philosophy. And this was before technology, but I've had an opportunity to be in technology. I've had the opportunity to be in finance. I have coached for other people and coached for myself for 25 years now. For some reason that I couldn't explain at the time, I wanted to be in musical theater. I was much younger then. I was about 35, and I was terrified of auditions. Well, I fought through, and nobody around me cared at all whether I did this or not. But it was within me, and I faced absolute terror at auditions to be on stage, and finally had the opportunity to do that for a number of years, and got to the point, yes, I got to perform in front of a full orchestra, 1,500 seat theater, and absolutely loved it. And I got to this later point in my life, because that all stopped after the death of my daughter.
Yeah.
I did not really perform again after that. But I look back and I say, why were all these things in my life? And so I now recognize why. First of all, because yes, it's helping others find their own life and knowing that each one of us is totally different. There's a lot of coaches out there, but I figure my clients are my clients. They will hear my voice and they'll want to work with me. And I'm not everybody's coach. And I also realized that all of the things I did on stage, and that then translated to being 20 years in Toastmasters, because when I get on stage every week at Toastmasters, it gives me life. It's expansion for me. And I realize I've never taken that big. I also realized I wrote a book, but I just thought it's just about writing the book. I never thought, who could it influence and how could I get it out there? And so right now I realize I could ask different questions, because just doing the things that I love doing, I love writing, I love speaking, and I love it when I'm connecting with people and they're seeing something new for themselves. So I realize that that's the life I would love. I know how to do a lot of technical stuff online, but I don't love that. It's like, that's where I need to have other people do some of the stuff that I don't love. But it's finding out what you really love. And by midlife, you've had some life before you. You've already seen things about yourself. And that's a wonderful opportunity to look back and kind of draw the little thread between them. What made these things all want to come together? And it's because you're you. I mean, Christine, you're sitting here doing this and loving bringing us together.
Yeah.
Okay. All of this, the answers are inside. Whenever I coach, it's that all of my clients, you are your own best authority, because you know what's inside you, and everybody can have their own unique dream. So that's mine. And thank you for asking.
Yeah, I love that you value connectedness within your life, and I'm guessing that's why Christine chose you to be here today, is your ability to perfectly communicate your words of wisdom and connect with others through your experiences. I also had a question for Crystal. Crystal and I have really gotten to know each other well over the last couple months, and I'm actually a user of her platform, Inner Hive. I enjoy using the check-in feature that's available there. And she's actually been on my video series talking about the financial toll of caregiving for National Family Caregiver Month. And so I've kind of gotten a disclosure, I've gotten kind of like a preclusion of her story. But I would like to learn from Crystal about, you talk about connectiveness and in creating the support system. Who is that one person that really made a difference for you in your care journey?
Oh, I don't think there was one person in terms of continuity throughout the journey. I think at different stages, there was always one person that I leaned on harder. I will say someone that was a constant and someone that I learned a lot about in terms of how they showed up for me, but how they showed up for my family was my husband. It's a lot to move your family in with you. It's a lot to move in with you short term. And he stepped up and helped. And we moved, my grandmother, my uncle, and then eventually my mom in. And so we had all of us under one roof during the pandemic when we were all just with each other 24/7. Because of the condition, you can't. We had a schedule of watch. And so I think if there's people talk about playing sports with or being able to make it through a vacation or a move, and if you can, weather that, then you've learned conflict, you learn communication, there's partnership. But seeing how your partner shows up for you when you go through something like this, and him respecting how meaningful it was and accommodating, and then also stepping in, that was probably one of the most powerful things I've experienced in terms of having that support, but also learning so much more about him and how he shows up. So that was really meaningful. And then I think second to that is I had, my mom and dad who also showed up. And so there were instances when I kind of started to shut out the world, and I had, one good friend that I was leaning on, but she's across the country. And so you've got the time zone difference, or maybe my response is delayed. She was phenomenal being there from an emotional support. She didn't understand what I was going through from a caregiving role, but she absolutely understood and saw that my behavior shifted. I'm always the one that's there, that's checking in, that's a constant. And when she was struggling to hear from me, or I wasn't responding, or I was saying, I can't talk, she was able to recognize that there was an exception, right? There was an anomaly, but she wasn't willing to give up. She'd still drop notes and say, I know you must be going through a lot right now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm here, or I'm thinking about you, or she'd send me a quote. Or so that softness helped me feel good about having friends that stayed with me, even, that through the highs and the lows. And then the family was the one that really, when I went dark for a while and my dad had tried to get a hold of me, he ended up calling my husband, and he's like, she is so underwater right now, because not only did we have the caregiving piece, I had started a different company a few months before. And a few months before that, we had brought in, I work with special need dogs. So I work with the shelters in the area. And between those two components and then layering this in, that took me down. And so when he didn't get a hold of me, he jumped on the plane and flew across country and surprised me. So these micro moments of support are really what held me up. I certainly lost friends. I lost colleagues. I lost people that didn't have patience, that didn't understand, that were getting irritated because I wasn't always available, or I wasn't what they, the 24/7 Crystal that they expected before, but they didn't put in the work to understand why, or they didn't have the perspective to build empathy. And so I accepted that and said, we go through life and we each grow and we learn at different rates. And I think something that's really important is not everyone around you is going to grow at the same rate. So there's always going to be this gap. There's always going to be this opportunity of people that are close that you maintain, and some people that you don't. And you just got to respect the time you had with them. But ultimately, it's just part of the shift.
I feel like I hear an element of forgiveness and even hopefulness. I know I'm not pushing. I don't mean to push upon you, what isn't there, but this is the way it's impacting me, is forgiving someone for not being able to reconcile. What's going on? Taking it the wrong way, whatever. And also hoping for them that they will come to a point of going, maybe that's what it was like for Crystal. I had that just a few nights ago. I met someone who was born and raised in a very, very different culture than Central Texas. And the barriers that no one could see that were insurmountable inside of this person, because they had, strawberry blonde hair and freckles. They appeared on the outside to be one of the gang and, part of what flows here. But, and I was like, that I couldn't understand a friend that I had, especially when we became roommates in college, why there was such a paralysis to just handle things, because once again, the outward appearance caused, an assumption, an expectation. And what was inside the person was their entire life had been so different than living in the US. And I'm like, it took me this long. I haven't been in college since 1982. And just not understanding. But we were roommates in 78, and just, I don't get it. Why are you acting this way? And I'm just like, I feel like it's taken till now just to go, I accept. And I'm really glad that you had people there that just, like you said, she didn't understand, but she held on to it and showed up in ways that you needed. That is amazing. Danielle, did you want to say something about what you do on a day-to-day basis in your, I always say endeavors, because sometimes it's a nonprofit and sometimes it's work and sometimes it's a company that you own. And then Matt has just been going, wow. So this is what it's like to be on a show that's completely unscripted. Danielle, did you want to talk at all about, your financials? So you're just like totally beyond my brain anyway. Finance is like, I don't even want to work for a bank. I don't want to be involved in other people's money things. This is important. And you're like, I do want to be there because it's important. Okay, I'm putting words in your mouth. Danielle, you do financial something. Go for it.
Thank you again, Christine, for having me here and part of this amazing group. I understand what it's like to be a woman having bumps in the road through your journey. When I was in my 20s, I unexpectedly, but very grateful to give birth to our daughter. And at that time, my husband and I we were young, and we were just trying to get ourselves with a financial foundation to carry a life, let alone know about myself. And after that, we started to really gain a financial foundation for ourselves. We started planning for our future as a family. And then we had another stumbling block. My grandmother fell on tile floor and broke her hip, and that started another caregiving journey. And so women and men, but a lot of women go through many different life transitions within themselves, and I'm happy to help them with those life transitions. I've been listening to the stories from Carol and Crystal, and the process that I go through when I'm doing financial planning is not just the money. Life is not all about the money. It's about the life experiences in the future that you envision for yourself. And so some of the questions that I've asked are some of the questions that I ask clients, because I really want to make sure that I know them before I even think about giving them advice, because money is very correlated to the conversations that I have. So we're talking about Crystal's support system and how that can be carried on through her lifetime. Her husband is a great support system for her. We're thinking about Carol's resilience and how she is now taking this opportunity to discover a new point in her life. And I'm sure we're going to hear about Matt's next. Sorry, Matt, but I think financial planning is an opportunity to really learn about your clients' endeavors and who they are, and then match that with the money aspects of their life. And that's what I'm grateful to do.
Matt, this is really unusual. I'm about to mute myself so that I cannot interrupt you.
What do you want me to talk about?
I would say you get to decide. You get to decide. I mean, I just kept seeing your face, and you were around people that I've actually been in person with, let alone on screen with, let alone just seeing their really amazing comments and posts and going, ooh, you are a person who has a deep substance. Boy, if I could get to know you, if my viewers could get to know more about you. So figure you've got an audience of people going, Matt Reiners, I've heard good stuff, but I really want to know what he's about, what he does, why, all that good stuff. Mute.
Sounds good. Well, first off, I want to thank you and everybody here for being a part of this conversation. You know, I can't relate on everything, but I think, you know, it's just a great reminder of how I can be a better husband, how I can be a better father to my own daughter as she's 3.5 now. So, you know, there's definitely something to take out of this all. So for me, and feel free, anybody can interrupt or ask any questions. So been a part of 2 startups since I was 22. I'm 35 now, just to kind of date myself. Both led to successful exits. The first company was helping people around the country throw silent disco events. Anybody on the panel ever hear about a silent disco before? One, Crystal. All right, Crystal.
Pretty common in California.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, Christine, you got it down. So imagine like a room full of people dancing to no out loud music, and everything is being played through wireless headphones. So it's like the craziest thing you would ever come across. But out of that, and what really introduced me to, you know, older adults and senior living and sort of like this idea of, you know, aging better was what I saw my own grandmother go through. So she lived to be 93, was in a senior living community, and honestly, quality of life kind of sucked. And a lot of it stemmed from her inability to hear. So, you know, that inspired us, along with my other co-founder, Jake, who had his older loved one who struggled with something similar, and my other co-founder, Devin, who had something. So it set us on this mission to try and help older adults hear better and, you know, in senior living communities. And so we started that in 2017, and then, you know, grew that over the years. Just, you know, so many stories that would make just so many goosebumps, just so many positive stories, and got acquired last year, and then found a new calling of just like technology within senior living. So for the last 90 days, I joined Amber Barden at Parasol Alliance, who's their founder and CEO, and just like a true visionary when it comes to everything technology, to try and change the technology culture within senior living. So happy to say I made it out of my 90-day review. So we're on the other side of that. But yeah, super excited to just be in this industry and see the role that technology can play to, you know, improve quality of life, make productivity that much better, and then really just set us up for the future as we move along.
I love
Matt,
it.
can I ask you a question?
Of course, Carol.
Yeah. I had met somebody who was going into senior centers with virtual reality, because sometimes they can't go anywhere. So they had a little sandbox there, and they had them like take a day at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
because with virtual reality, are you using anything like that?
So I'm very familiar with, so what we do is basically we're IT for senior living communities. There's definitely some communities that are embracing and using that. A good buddy of mine is the CEO of Rendeavor, which is a company that's doing that. And it's really cool. Some of the stories, Kyle, their CEO, him and I speak quarterly to a class out at Washington State University. And I always get to hear like the latest and greatest from them and just see all their videos and stories. And to your point about like the beach, I've also seen situations where they'll set up like a Google Map so someone can go and visit their childhood home. And then I also saw like the greatest video of an older woman with the VR goggles on, basically being surrounded by golden retriever puppies. So it's really cool to see. In terms of our clients, we help them to implement that and kind of go through the RFP process with the various vendors out there. But it's really cool. And I think as we see technology, right, senior living's always thought about the four walls around us, but technology can really just allow us to experience the world from the comfort of our own community. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, glad you're doing that.
Hey, Russ Hedge has been commenting. He is a great friend. He's great at being a friend. He's a great guy. And he just wanted to make sure that you all are being championed and cheered on. He has been so involved in Alzheimer's Association, big gatherings, thousands of people walking with the spinners, those flowers, different colors for different situations, survivors and those who cared, etc. And he totally understands all that this is all about, and is very open in the public arena about his own current cancer. And so, you know, who's showing up for him and his incredible, you know, I'm going to take today as today and tomorrow will be tomorrow. And he's just showing up again for you guys and championing our opportunity here. Matt, I feel like I've seen this on TV. I've seen a group of people who were all dancing and had those on. And I was kind of scared to even say it, for you to go, yeah, we got hacked. That's not us, or that's not my product, or whatever it is that it's called, you know, that somebody else came in and did it's called a knockoff, right? Or something.
So I will say we did not come up with the concept at all. So
Okay.
what we saw, so it was part of a college class that my co-founder, who I've known since I was 5 years old, we kind of saw the industry trends that were happening over in the UK and, you know, Google Trends, some of the other stuff that was happening. Saw it was still kind of a premature market, or immature market, I should say, here in the US. And that's where we kind of, everyone has pretty much the same equipment. In the silent disco world, they're all kind of getting it from the 1 or 2, 3 manufacturers and overseas. So it's just all a marketing play and service play. So we kind of just hopped on that. We definitely have had equipment in a typical show on Netflix. And there's a couple of other shows. Brooklyn Nine-Nine had our gear in it. We've had a couple of other shows that have incorporated our stuff over the years. And happy to say that company is still operating. That's Party Headphones, partyheadphones.com. I am not affiliated with them anymore, but they're still crushing it. So it's awesome to see.
Wow. Parasol. I'm just interested, like even like Inner Hive, you know, it's like Parasol. It's like we got you covered, or, you know, I feel like there's a story there as well. And
Yeah.
can you give us, like, is there even a sneak peek on, you know, we're developing this, or we've got something in trial right now, or having the actual 90-year-olds, you know, try out something new, or giving us ideas, any like future, I mean, this is all future. You said, did you say immature market? Is that what the word that I heard you say?
So premature or immature market for the silent disco side of the world. So that's Party Headphones, Parasol Alliance. So we're owned by 5 not-for-profit senior living communities based in the Chicago, Wisconsin area. So that's where the alliance comes from. And then the Parasol, I like to tell people we help to block the sun from some of these like tech vendors that are coming into space, showing kind of like these golden spoons, right? Because what we do is really handle all the IT and technology for some of these communities and like help with implementation, optimization. Because like when I think of the future, right, like I think a lot of senior living communities want to be innovative when it comes to technology. A lot of them just don't have that infrastructure or team makeup to really maximize that. A lot of these communities do care really good. Technology, maybe not so much. So that's where we kind of come in, whether we're a managed services provider on the IT side. So whether we're handling that or doing consultant-based stuff. So we're basically a technology. We get a snapshot of today and then kind of help them with their technology roadmap as they look to implement that, whether it's, the VR systems or like EHR, EMR systems, like really anything and everything when it comes to technology.
Who do you feel like is happiest when they know Parasol is coming in? Like the first thing, is it management? Is it the workers that are, tucking in the covers on the beds and serving the food? Is it residents themselves? Is it the family of the residents going, oh, good, this is going to be happening? Who's the happiest when you guys are arriving on the scene?
So I would say it's typically the CFO, because typically IT reports into them. And really, from what I've heard from some of our clients is, they might have 1 to 2 people on site currently that are more generalists, but with where everything's going in terms of like cybersecurity, networking, all this sort of stuff, you need really a specialist to help support where this is going. So I think it starts at the leadership team, and then they start to see that trickle down and people having this whole team behind them. To really help maximize their productivity and really allow them to spend more time with the residents to maximize those one-on-one interactions. And then I will say we've got a resident tech component as well that so we're helping support the resident technology needs, and the residents are very, very, very happy with that. So it's like a friendly grandson or granddaughter geek squad right on campus.
Wow. I'm really glad when I ask a question, because I don't want anyone to be backed in a corner. I'm really glad when there's an answer that either gets us thinking more, or it's just like, oh, I know. I know who's going, yes, you're here. You 4 have been amazing this hour. Thank you for totally opening up, knowing that the right people are going to view this. I hear after we're done that people were listening, but they couldn't, put in a comment. I hear other people going, I saw it 3 hours later. I saw it on Wednesday. And can I get on your show? I mean, I love to hear that too, but it's the people that I'll never hear from that are just the right people that are hearing this and are like, I'm so gripped. I was going to listen for a few minutes, and then somebody said something and I went, oh, I'm there. I was there. I think I'm going to be in that situation. And these people are speaking to my life and into my life and to my, needs. And it's just, I'm so thrilled because you guys have hit everything. I mean, I think of enrichment, services, personal interconnection, somebody who just gets it. And I am so grateful. Danielle, I see that you have Spark-Fin. Spark-Fin. Fin would probably be financial.
Correct.
Great. And Crystal, you've got Inner Hive. I'm just saying these out loud as we finish up. And Carol, you have Life Change Navigator, and you do vision workshops, which I have been able to attend one. And Matt, Parasol Alliance. And I just wanted to say those out loud for somebody who's going, what was that? Where's my piece of paper? Where's my pen? And I need to let you all get on with your Mondays. And I knew I was already content with the way the day was unfolding, but now I am definitely a menopause millionaire because you have all made me richer. Thank you so much. You are released. The bell's ringing. You're out for recess or on to your next assignment. Thank you, everyone. And then the curtain closes and we all say goodbye and people are like encore. And it's like, now we got to get going. Thank you, Carol, Crystal, Matt, and Danielle.
Thanks for having us.